Hey toy collectors, welcome to another super exciting, outrageous toy review. Today, we're taking a look at Shockwave version 3. He's part of the G.I. Joe Drug Elimination Force. In 1992, Shockwave was not a new character to the G.I. Joe lineup. He had been around for quite some time, getting two versions previous to this. But the DEF Drug Elimination Force was new. Shockwave is a pretty decent figure, being dressed in blue and black. It's pretty subtle for 1992. Maybe the blue is a shade brighter than I would like, but then again, his original figure was kind of baby blue. There's some really great sculpting in his bulletproof vest, with guns and grenades and things strapped to it, as well as just some general wrinkles in his uniform. He's got some additional pads and straps and things like that on his whole figure. He looks really good. This was the first time we got to see Shockwave's face. Both version 1 and 2 had a sculpted-on balaclava mask. I think he's a bit younger looking than I would have expected, but it has been pointed out to me by a viewer that his likeness may be styled after an actor from the SWAT movie from the late 70s, and that probably makes sense. The designers may have been a fan of that. It's not a bad head sculpt at all. In fact, I think it's a really great head sculpt. It just isn't what I would expect necessarily for Shockwave. He just is a little bit too much of a Boy Scout for the way I envision the character. Shockwave has standard G.I. Joe articulations with a ball joint at the neck, allowing him to look around. He has shoulder joints that move all the way around. He has a swivel at the bicep, a hinge at the elbow. He has an O-ring joint at his waist there that lets him pivot around. That also affects his hip joints, which are attached to the T-bar that goes through here. So his hips can move out to the side, and he can bend his knees. Great articulation. I think G.I. Joes are the perfect level of articulation for 4-inch or 3 3/4-inch action figures. Not so much that they're super articulated and they get in awkward poses, but not so little they can't sit well in a vehicle or at a dollhouse tea party table. For accessories, Shockwave comes with a battle stand. This was a pretty great accessory that they started adding with the guys in the 90s. You can't overlook the battle stands. They are a very nice inclusion. He comes with his assault rifle, which looks great. Really nice sculpt, and just a classic weapon to give a SWAT guy. He comes with a helmet with a built-in face shield. It has a little slit here for him to see out. It is sculpted to kind of look like it would hinge, but, it's all one piece here. It's slightly rubbery and fits over his head pretty nicely, and you can pretty much line it up so you can see his eyes through the visor slot. I don't think this is quite as cool as the balaclava mask and hat that he wore in his first two appearances, but it's a pretty fun-looking helmet for a SWAT team member to have in its own right. Shockwave's final accessory is this robotic battering ram tank. Now, Shockwave's job in the SWAT unit is to kick down doors, to be the first one to enter, and so having a robot that can do it for him actually works out pretty well. This thing is molded in a translucent yellow plastic. That is so you can take advantage of a light-up gimmick that's enclosed inside here. There's an LED and batteries. Unfortunately, this one's so old it doesn't work, and I didn't take the time to go get new batteries. I've never actually unscrewed one of these to try to change the batteries, but I assume you can because the screws are exposed there. When you pull back the trigger to fire the battering ram, the light on the front should light up, but this one doesn't work anymore.
The G.I. Joe Drug Elimination Force, armed with battle flash weapons.
By 92, Hasbro was really trying to pack in action features with the G.I. Joes. They wanted all of them to do something. They were trying to compete with toys like Power Rangers and X-Men that had different action features built into them. Most G.I. Joes, the action feature happened to be a spring-loaded missile launcher. Most of those I hate because they're giant cannons that the figure has to carry. I love that this one is molded into a little robot. It has its place on the battlefield. The guy doesn't have to carry it. And also, little personal robots are super sweet. Who didn't love the G.I. Joe Lightfoot as a kid? I actually just recently scored a carded sample of this guy. It's pretty much the reason why he's getting reviewed this week. Because I want to talk about Shockwave. He's the SWAT specialist. He's got the giant DEF logo up there, which of course reminds me a lot of the Cops and Crooks toy line from Hasbro. Obviously they're both using like eagle-shaped police badges, so, I get where the inspiration comes from, but I can't help not thinking about it. The battering ram that comes with this guy reminds me a lot of Barricade from the Cops and Crooks line. And on the front, we have a giant electronic battle flash battering ram tank Call out. I even like the purple laser lines going on in the background. The artwork in the 90s wasn't as good as it had been earlier on in the run, but this isn't too bad. Considering the tank gimmick was a big selling point for this, they really did cover up the tank in the artwork. The top of his card back shows off other characters from DEF, including the good guys and the Headhunter bad guys. I do think it's interesting that Bulletproof is the name of the leader of this team, as was the leader of the Cops and Crooks toy line, and all the rest of the characters in this first wave are reissued characters. Cutter, Shockwave, and Mutton Junkyard all got new sculpts and new versions of classic characters. I did think that was kind of a neat idea, and especially since this line was probably targeting the slightly older kids, because you don't really talk to little kids about drugs too much. That 9 to 12 age range of G.I. Joes probably was the target for these guys, I'm guessing, based on, the sensitive nature of the topic. Those kids may be more likely to have known the older characters than the newer fans, so it kind of makes sense. We have a lot of classic characters getting updates here with Duke, Wetsuit, Roadblock, Destro, Gung-Ho, Wild Bill, Firefly, and the Eels all getting new figures. And along with his flag point, you can see Shockwave's file card. The DEF characters got kind of a bigger file card with an extra piece at the bottom, similar to Eco Warriors with a little fact. Pause it here if you want to read Shockwave's bio. I do find it interesting in the secret communique from DEF leader Bulletproof. He talks about the headmen disguising themselves as regular military personnel to sell drugs to the troops. We wouldn't want to insinuate that anyone's selling drugs to kids. We have a reminder to watch the Deke cartoon show. A lot of people give Hasbro flack for taking the war on drugs literally. I had no problem with this. I still think that if the right kids, the right fringe kids that are trying to make this decision of walking the straight and narrow line or going down the wrong path, think to themselves that their heroes, the G.I. Joes, don't do drugs, and they're not going to do drugs, it's fine by me. Street Fighter had the champions don't do drugs message on the screen there. I really have no problem with a brand promoting anti-drug use to kids.
Remember, real American heroes don't do drugs. Don't!
In the comments down below, let me know what you think of version 3 Shockwave. Thanks for watching this super exciting, outrageous tour review. Make sure to like, subscribe, and check out my other videos.